So my role really is just to provide you a bit of an overview of the recent policy changes which have happened over the course of the last year. And I can't really go to an event without mentioning this thing here. The Environment Agency undertaking, well, to be honest, quite a massive undertaking in the refresh and update of the National Flood and Coastal Erosion Risk Management Strategy. And it really sets out the direction for the way we manage flood risk management over the next 50 years or so. It's been formed through extensive consultation with over 150 people from 90 different organisations, and it's not just been solely focused on flood risk management professionals or those involved in the field. It's been much wider than that. And it's really sort of starting to bring out three core themes around climate resilience and adapting our places to climate change. Indeed, our initial sort of engagement with people has unearthed that sustainable drainage systems and natural flood management are things that people want to see an increased uptake in. What I will say is that it's not the strategy's remit to change any policy, but DEFRA have been involved in the shaping of the strategy, and we've been feeding feedback to them from stakeholders. I understand that feedback from our consultation will feed into the DEFRA's policy statement at the end of the year. And just for awareness, the public consultation on the strategy will be published in the next 2 or 3 months. We can't talk about SuDS without also talking about the role of planning policy and the role that planning policy has in shaping development. As I mentioned, the NPPF was updated in July and it was recently updated yesterday as well. And the Environment Agency have worked very closely with DEFRA and the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government to shape the content, particularly on the development and flood risk sections. And we have seen some improvements to the National Planning Policy Framework. We now know that major development should incorporate sustainable drainage systems unless clear and demonstrable evidence that they're inappropriate. And that sets really quite a high burden of evidence for developers to overcome to do something different than sustainable drainage systems. Also, the NPPF incorporates the concepts of SuDS that are designed to appropriate minimum operational standards that can be adopted by others. Maintenance arrangements must be clearly described to ensure that standards are maintained throughout the lifetime of the development. And by extension, one option to secure this is through adoption of sustainable drainage systems, which we're hoping to expand upon in the planning practice guidance itself. Now, the NPPF doesn't go so far to prescribe the method of adoption that needs to be secured, but we do intend that the planning practice guidance will start to flesh out some of the potential options and may potentially set out some preferences. There is also now much stronger requirements in the policy that SuDS will integrate with green infrastructure and other functions within developments. And again, this sows a seed for multifunctional benefits of sustainable drainage systems other than just flood risk management. We also now understand that development will only be allowed in flood risk areas if it incorporates a sustainable drainage system, and this is a principle established for all types of development. As I said, we're hoping to address issues of natural flood management, sustainable drainage systems, and this link between multifunctional benefits and GI in the PPG. So, for example, demonstrating how sustainable drainage systems can provide net biodiversity and net environmental gain. For example, providing extra storage or extra infiltration or habitats for invertebrates. We're also seeking to mandate biodiversity gain through the planning system. I mean, SuDS can play such a huge part in the delivery of biodiversity net gain. I also want to talk a bit about the climate change allowances. Now, everyone here involved in developing sustainable drainage systems will have to consider how their systems can respond to future climate change. And one of the ways in which you do this is to refer to the Environment Agency's climate change allowances, which prescribe ways to account for peak rainfall intensity uplifts in new sustainable drainage systems. So we've worked very closely with the Met Office and the UK CPA team on developing the climate change projections, which were published in November. And there is a project or continuing data analysis, if you like, underway to understand what the future impacts on rainfall intensity will mean for this country. Basically, the Met Office have used their supercomputing power, and they've been able to look at 2.2 square kilometre resolution grid cells for the entirety of the country and generate rainfall series for those cells. Now, as I say, this is a continuing analysis. It's going on as I speak, but we think that this information will be available in some kind of format by probably middle or end of the summer 2019. There'll then be a process whereby that information is translated into usable and practical guidance. And what I mean by that is percentage allowance that you can apply to your HIETA graph for a particular SuDS design. We do think we're going to have summer and winter profiles as well, but one of the key changes, if you like, is that we will also have sub-daily and daily rainfall totals. What that means, in a roundabout way, you'll be able to look at a particular location or region in the country and be able to prescribe a particular rainfall intensity allowance for that particular location. So moving away from the national allowance of 20% and 40% that we use at the moment. I said, we're dependent upon the Met Office producing the results, but once it is produced, we'll be able to look at updating our guidance. That might be at the end of 2019, it might be shortly after that. Sorry, I just want to go back and just one important point on this. To give you a flavour of what the scale of change might be, a similar study a few years ago, completed by UK Water Industry Research, found that in some areas of the country, in certain climate change scenarios, there could be increases of over 100%. Now that's quite a big change from what we currently include in our design for sustainable drainage systems. So I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out with similar order of magnitude. I also think it's important to mention the 25-year environment plan. Now the 25-year environment plan is crucial in trying to really improve the environment over the next 25 years. And one of the principles it talks about is that of net gain. Now net gain is about enhancing the environment and leaving it in a better state for future generations. It can refer to biodiversity net gain and or environmental net gain. It aims to put the environment at the heart of planning and new development to create better places for people to live and work. And the principle of embedding environmental net gain within development is a key aim of the 25-year environment plan. Now this, as those involved in sustainable drainage systems, presents a real opportunity for us to hook into the aspirations of the 25-year environment plan and use that as a mechanism to deliver really fantastic sustainable drainage systems that go beyond just flood risk management and deliver on biodiversity, amenity and water quality issues. I've incorporated some things on there. So there's already commitments in the 25-year environment plan to update and amend the planning practice guidance to clarify requirements for construction and maintenance arrangements for sustainable drainage systems. And it specifically talks around updating planning guidance for water quality and biodiversity, recognising that they're two crucial things which can be delivered through sustainable drainage systems. We've already started to make changes to the National Planning Policy Framework, and we're continuing to work with the likes of DEFRA and MHCLG on the content for the PPG to make sure that those things are realised. But there's also a commitment in the 25-year environment plan to look at improving existing arrangements for managing surface water. And this is specifically looking at the way lead local flood authorities perform their functions. So there's still a load of work to do, and I think I'm not going to talk about those hexagons. I think everybody in the room can sort of relate to those issues, and those are areas areas where we need to try and do more. So I'm not going to sort of go through them really. But what I will say is that there's been a plethora of studies, really involved studies and surveys, to try and work out what's needed to try and deliver more sustainable drainage systems and tackle some of these policy barriers and also, I guess, governance and organisational barriers to sustainable drainage systems. We obviously had the SIOM Big Sud survey, which came out with, well, a number of policy recommendations, but one around really nailing adoption and future maintenance, citing that that's probably the greatest barrier to SuDS delivery. More recently, we've had the Landscape Institute study, which found that 96% of local authorities report that the quality of planning submissions for SuDS are either inadequate or mixed. And we've also had work completed by the Institute of Civil Engineers as part of their SuDS route maps work, where I think something like 500 people were surveyed. And again, the greatest barrier to SuDS delivery, which is being commonly reported by house builders, practitioners alike, is a lack of a single adopting body or a clear route for adoption in SuDS new developments. So I think we know what the policy barriers are and also the organisational barriers.
Yeah, hi everybody. So I'm Hayley Bowman and I work in the Flood Risk Management Research team at the Environment Agency. And today really I was just going to talk you through why we need research on SuDS and what our role really is at the Environment Agency, but working with others to help drive forward that research and deliver some really good practice. I'm going to mention 3 key projects that are delivering this year or have just recently delivered, which I think are going to be really key for pushing forward SuDS delivery this year. And I will touch on a few points for future research needs. So why is SuDS research important? Well, in England, over 3 million properties are at risk of surface water flooding, and this is more than any other form of flood risk in England. It's particularly prevalent in highly built-up urban areas where there's lots of impermeable surfaces. Surface water flood risk is a risk that is growing. So as Andy just mentioned, in the future, and we know now through the climate change scenarios, we are going to have some warmer, wetter summers with those heavy downpours and more thunderstorms. We've also got a population that is growing, that is going to demand more housing, hopefully not more impermeable surfaces. So we need better ways to both mitigate and manage surface water flooding. And SuDS is one mechanism that can really help to do that. A well-designed SuDS scheme can avoid flooding by capturing the rainwater close to the source as possible, and so that we're not putting it into pipe drainage. SuDS are also very important to us because they can make great places for people and for wildlife too. But we need to have confidence in what works, what doesn't work, why does it work well, and keep that maintenance going and that monitoring going so that we can support those people that are delivering SuDS or want to deliver SuDS. So research can really help to provide that evidence and give us confidence. So as Andy mentioned, so we've got the strategic overview of management of all flood sources, and as part of that we are responsible for delivering the National Flood and Coastal Risk Management Strategy. And as part of that, delivering that strategy, we help others to support others to help deliver that strategy. We work collaboratively to help develop the skills that are needed, and we provide evidence to inform government policy. So to support all of that, we have a joint research programme, and that's run collectively by the Environment Agency, by DEFRA, by Natural Resources Wales and Welsh Government. And this is really our mechanism to translate academic research, more blue skies research, into the practical guidance and tools that are needed for practitioners. And particularly there to support all risk management authorities in England and Wales, but also industry and other partners too. So how do we know what research is needed and what's needed most? So the way we set about delivering research under our joint programme is to have a number of themes, and we set those themes out in research frameworks. So we target research needs based on gaps that can be filled to support us, but also other people deliver the national strategy, and we do that in collaboration. So we sit down and work out what research needs are needed most over the coming kind of 3 to 5 years, and we review that annually. So one of the themes to support our strategic overview of the locally managed flood risk is to support surface water and groundwater management. And within this we have set out a particular framework for SuDS research. So our focus here is really about improving knowledge and practice of SuDS to help mitigate flood risk, particularly surface water flood risk, in both new and existing developments, particularly through source control. And the research projects, you can kind of see the needs that are round on the screen there, but we're really trying to focus on the costs and benefits of SuDS and how we measure that, how we measure the wider benefits of SuDS so that we can look at how we're incorporating biodiversity net gain and environmental net gain. We're looking at the performance of SuDS, so how well do they work, are we monitoring them over time, and trying to incentivise the uptake of SuDS. So we use this research framework to try and steer investment in research, and that's both through the joint programme, which can fund research projects, but also others as well, like Syria Research and UK water industry research. So we believe it is as important to deliver new research as it is to provide the tools and the guidance that take that research and help the practitioners. So we're a partner of susdrain, and we continue to seek and develop and share new resources for everyone involved in delivering SuDS. And we think it is important to collaborate with professionals and stakeholders so that we can together build up the capacity and skills that are needed. We think as industry gains more experience of SuDS and it can share that knowledge, it can apply it to design and deliver even better SuDS in the future. There's already loads of really good guidance, loads of really good research that's published on SuDS, and it's there as a growing body of evidence for SuDS evidence and resources. So just a couple of examples that have been delivered already. So we've worked with Syria to turn that academic research into guidance to develop some of the best practice resources that are available. So this includes guidance on retrofitting SuDS to manage surface water flooding, and crucially the original SuDS manual and updates to it. This manual is really seen as world-leading good practice, and it involves the latest research and technical advice to help plan, help design, construct, manage and maintain really good SuDS. And last year, as Andy just mentioned, about the work we supported with ICE to develop the ICE SuDS route maps, and this is really a good resource that is pulling together and signposting where all of the good practice guidance is. And there's some really good information there on that website that can help you take you through applying SuDS and when they're needed. So I mentioned at the start there were 3 significant projects which have completed, recently developed, that I'm just going to talk to you about now. So hopefully you already know about the BEST tool delivered by Syria. After all, it has been freely available for just over 4 years now. And this is a method for quantifying the economic benefits of SuDS, and it has been downloaded extensively and is being applied in the UK and abroad. If you don't know about it, take a good look on the screen. There's lots of benefits it can bring for you in terms of valuing the benefits of blue-green infrastructure. Over the last year, the joint programme have supported Syria and their contractors Stantec to update the BEST tool. And this is really about building up the evidence base behind it that's used to calculate the benefits, and the remit has been widened to account not just for SuDS but for natural flood management measures as well. So this tool can be used to value the benefits of blue-green infrastructure, and it can be a really helpful tool for supporting funding applications. And the recent update has now got integrated guidance and improved visuals, and you can see some examples that you can get out from the tool. It can produce graphs, it can produce pie charts, and that they can be used to support funding applications. So the updated tool and guidance was published last week, last week. So it's on Syria's website, so I'd urge you to go and take a look at the updated guidance and the updated tool. So secondly, there's a project that we've been working with Water UK on, and I think when those that aren't in the know see a good SuDS scheme, they might see a green space, a pond maybe, some really good landscaping, or a new path perhaps. But when those that need to be in the know, like sewage undertakers, highways authorities, new SuDS approval bodies in Wales, the lead local flood authorities and the Environment Agency, look at a SuDS scheme, you would see or want to see a whole host of different information. The trouble is, not much of this information is recorded, and it's not recorded consistently or in a format that can be shared between authorities. So last year, the DEFRA Surface Water Management Action Plan recognised that further support was needed to help develop asset registers by lead local flood authorities and help people to use them, and committed to providing some good practice guidance for that. So as part of this, over the last year, we've worked with Water UK and their consultants HR Wallingford to determine a consistent generic approach to recording SuDS assets, and that could be applied across the UK. So Water UK have just finished this project, and it sets out what could be recorded about SuDS, the information and the detail that you'd need to capture to make that complete and to propose a consistent framework. Now, Water UK tell me that they are hoping to use it to develop the sector guidance that's being prepared to help implement SuDS for Adoption 8. And if, and I don't know if that's a big if, but if Ofwat approve the guidance, then it would be mandatory for water and sewage companies to adopt a consistent register. So I think this will, for the first time, mean that SuDS assets can be recorded in detail, consistently, in a way that could be shared across authorities. So we also work collaboratively with universities to support the longer term strategic research to ensure that what gets delivered from that strategic research is going to work for practitioners and it is going to support flood risk management. So the joint programme supported a project that was quite well known called Blue-Green Cities, which ran until 2016, and we're supporting the follow-on project for that, which is called Achieving Urban Flood Resilience in an Uncertain Future. This is a collaboration of 9 different universities, but led by Nottingham University, and it's looking at a whole host of topics on flood and water resilience. And I think this is a really important piece of research for SuDS, and it's completing this year. It has got a really big remit, but there's a few key things that I wanted to tell you about today that it's looking at. So it's looking at the perceptions, the barriers and opportunities for retrofitting SuDS specifically. It's looking at measuring and monitoring multiple benefits of SuDS, including biodiversity and water quality. It's looking at methods to determine what SuDS would work where, including ways of doing opportunity mapping, and benefits assessment and pathways to deliver good SuDS. It's also considering SuDS for both flood and drought management, so looking at how stormwater could be used as a resource through rainwater harvesting and for changes to water management strategies. And it's looking at integrated water management, so how can SuDS be integrated into transport planning and into the utility sectors. And it's demonstrating all of this through 2 significant case studies. So it's got one in Newcastle, which is focusing on retrofitting SuDS, and it's got one in the new Garden City development in Ebbsfleet in Kent. The project have got a really good website. There's loads of blogs on there. There's lots of information about the research that's being delivered, and they have got a dissemination event in Newcastle on the 7th of March. So if anyone's in that area and would want to go, then please have a look at their website to sign up. You know, there's loads more research going on, but I just wanted to pick those key things that have recently delivered or are delivering this year that could help us make a bit of a step change. So there's new tools and ways of working and that knowledge that we're building to try and get a transformative change to deliver SuDS as part of wider integrated water management. So it's important to remember how far we've come, I think, and look at how much resource we've got out there, particularly through the susdrain website. There's so much out there that can help deliver good SuDS. But there's always more that can be done. So here's just a few things that we are going to focus on through the joint programme over the coming year. So we know that there are still common issues with delivering and adopting SuDS. We had the recent DEFRA SuDS review and the CIWEM survey. We also had the recent Landscape Institute report that tells us clearly that maintenance is still one of those issues. But in the next year, we're looking to start a project that is going to look at the role of communities in helping to maintain SuDS assets and other flood management assets too. And we've seen this work in other schemes, particularly like Greener Grangetown, which have worked with the community there to put in the new SuDS scheme. And as part of that, they've got a civil pride in their area to help maintain it and help with the upkeep. So we're going to build on existing research in this area and hopefully produce some guidance and some resources to help communities access that guidance to help maintain SuDS assets in the future. Secondly, we're looking at monitoring and measuring benefits. So we think technology could also play a really good part in SuDS, particularly for maintenance and monitoring. So, for example, it could be used to provide information on how quickly SuDS ponds might silt up, for example, which could then help determine some maintenance regimes. We're starting really to look at this as part of a much wider research programme, which is big data, and how smart sensors could help with flood risk management and better monitoring of SuDS to build up that evidence base of how they perform, their benefits for flood risk, but also for achieving the wider environmental gains. So I suppose an exciting prospect of greater SuDS uptake is that we might have more schemes to monitor and measure and build up that evidence base. And I think as more technology and smart technologies become available, we will have that ability to get access to that monitoring data. And thirdly, we have a key aim, and it is a strong part of our upcoming update to the national strategy, that we want people and places to become resilient. So there's a key role for SuDS to play here, and as Andy mentioned earlier, particularly in more integrated water management and climate resilience. So SuDS can really help us in times of flooding when we've got too much water, but they can also help us in times of drought when we've got too little water. There's lots of work progressing here, and I know Syria have been doing a lot of work on integrated water management, and we've got the bigger research project with Nottingham looking at this, but we still think that lots more could be done to help build climate resilience in our communities through SuDS. So, as Andy said, this year we will publish the updated National Flood and Coastal Risk Management Strategy, and that will really drive our longer term focus for research. So I've mentioned a few things that we're starting to look at in the shorter term, but of course the national strategy will be driving our longer term aims. But the research that we deliver through the joint programme and the frameworks that we have can still steer research in the short term, and they're there to really enhance the knowledge and understanding. We've got that framework for SuDS research for helping to reduce surface water flood risk. We want to work with others to provide the tools and guidance that practitioners need, so please by all means give your feedback to us in terms of what would help you as practitioners. And we want to be there to develop new ways of working to make sure that we can help deliver good SuDS. So just to finish off, everything that I've told you about today is in our research framework that's available online on gov.uk. And we also publish a magazine every year called Research News, and that will be out in a couple of months. By all means, do get in touch if you have any questions or want any further information. Thank you.